Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Lion's Den. This is the Weekly Roar. We're continuing the Raise a Leader series today, so I can speak to you about one of the main responsibilities we have as a leader. You're about to find out what that is in just a second. But first, I'm Greg Storch. I'm the founder of Lion Enterprise, a leadership development and coaching business where I focus on creating winning work cultures one leader at a time. I'm a certified professional leadership coach and a certified leadership speaker and trainer. Just as a quick recap, last week I spoke about one of the toughest challenges we can face as leaders. Do you remember what that was? One of the toughest challenges we can face as a leader is creating the right environment for potential leaders to grow and thrive. During the episode, I covered 5 things to help you create an environment that is conducive to the growth of our potential leaders. If you didn't catch that list, then just head over to my website at lion-enterprise.com and click on the Lion's Pride Library, where you'll find video number 97 for last week. While you're in the Lion's Pride Library, check it out. It's a free resource and it's a great way for you to get more of the roar. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about one of the main responsibilities that we have as leaders. Do you know what you're looking for when it comes to spotting a potential leader? One of our primary responsibilities as a leader is to be able to spot them. And it takes one to know one, which is why I started the year with my Leadership Reboot series that highlighted all the things that we can work on ourselves to become stronger leaders. It all starts with us. So how do we do that as leaders? How do we unearth those diamonds in the rough? Well, it begins with our mindset. It's looking for the best in people, not the worst. And sometimes that isn't a natural thing for people to do. We hear this all the time. Where our focus goes, our energy flows. If we spend our energy searching for the good qualities in people, we'll be sure to find them. And the same holds true if we shift our focus and look only at the negative qualities. Wherever we look, we're sure to find. And that's why I say this starts with a shift in our mindset. If you want to find those potential leaders in your organization or in your communities, be open and looking for the good qualities that make a good leader. We want to do that because it's our job as leaders to find and attract the right players to our team. Yes, just like sports franchises, they spend a lot of time and resources finding the right players to draft to their teams, right? Leaders have to put forth that same effort. Why do sports teams do that? Because they're trying to attract the best and the brightest to give themselves the best chances at victory. So it makes sense that we would do the same when we are hiring people to be leaders on our teams too. In order to make the correct choice in a hiring decision, leaders have to clearly understand, one, their big picture, and have the ability to make the proper assessment during that selection process. You know, at one point in my IT career, I was responsible for more than 350 contract employees. I always reviewed my roster of employees against the vacancies I had in order to try to promote or hire internally first. If I didn't have the right person, then I would look externally for a new player to join my team. Approaching things that way allowed me to motivate my current employees by offering potential advancement opportunities within the organization. But we can't always do that, right? Regardless, we have to start by understanding what it is we really need. Once you know that, then you can start looking at who you have on staff that is ready, willing, and able to meet those needs. The other thing that's helpful here is having a tool that's going to help you assess your candidates. It's really a good practice to have something like that anyway, an assessment you can use that's applied equally across the board to all your candidates. So as you assess each one, you can compare apples to apples. If you were responsible for hiring potential leaders in your organization or whatever you find yourself leading, would you know what you're looking for? If so, write those things down and then develop a ranking scale on whether the person or the candidate possesses those qualities or not. And then apply those same traits based on the same scale to keep the playing field level. When it comes to potential leaders, there are a few traits that I find to be non negotiable. Now, these are the things I look for. Your list might have other things, and that's great. Some of the things on my list include things like whether or not they have people skills, their attitude. Do they have a positive attitude? I want to see, do they have self-discipline, and what are some of the examples where they've shown that? Integrity is another big one, and of course, the ability to problem solve. Those are just a few. One of the things we need to have in our awareness is that there's a natural tendency of hiring managers to hire those whose abilities and expertise are not at the same level as their own. Where that can become a problem is that the negative effect it can have on the organization as it begins to grow. See, here's an example. If you're a 10 on the leadership scale and you're going to hire nines, and then your nines are most likely going to hire eights and them sevens. See, when all said and done, you end up with a large portion of marginal performers. The good news is that there are some things that we can do to avoid this from happening. Now, the first thing may sound a little odd, but if you want to hire highly developed people, let a highly developed leader be the hiring authority. That makes sense, right? Have the 10 looking for the other 10s. But how often do we see the top leaders in an organization getting involved in the hiring decisions at lower levels? Very seldom, if at all. My first contract as a program manager had about 165 people on it. I had 12 direct reports overseeing 10 task orders. In the federal contracting world, contractors tend to move around contract to contract, agency to agency quite frequently, really. So at any given time, I was managing up to 5 vacancies at a time. I made it one of my primary responsibilities as the overall program manager to be involved in the hiring process on every single task order. I sat on every interview we conducted for that contract. Why? It wasn't because I was a control freak or a micromanager, even though it sounds like it. It was because I understood the importance of my involvement in selecting the right players for my team. I had to ensure they were the right fit for the teams and the company, and of course, my customer. When highly developed leaders don't involve themselves in the hiring process, there's great risk to the organization that those who are involved are going to bring on less than the top performers. The other thing you can do as a leader is to invest in the development of the leaders you do have. Going back to my previous example, develop your nines to be tens, your eights to be nines, etc. That way you can internally strengthen your leadership team. That's another one of our responsibilities as a leader anyway, is to develop and nurture and grow our leaders. If you want to stay small, hire potential leaders who are smaller than you are, not physically, but in ability. But if you want to grow, you need to bring on potential leaders who are bigger than you. I think it was last week that I said it takes a leader to know a leader. It's true. And that's why today's session is called It Takes One to Know One. When we're on the hunt for potential leaders, we have to know what they look like. So I want to run through my top 5 qualities to look for in a leader. You've probably heard me speak about this before, I'm sure, but it was in the context of its importance to our own leadership, and that is character. That's the first quality I look for. When it comes to leadership, having serious character flaws can sink the ship. Flaws are not the same as weaknesses. Yes, they are weaknesses, but those are the type of weaknesses that can't really be corrected or changed in a short amount of time. It takes quite an extensive effort, if at all. Regular weaknesses, areas in leadership where we just may not be strong at the time, those weaknesses can be addressed by training and just gaining more experience. This is where things like honesty, integrity, dependability, a strong work ethic, they all come into play here. And how do you know it when you see it? Usually because through observation, you will see that their words match their actions. They walk the talk. If you're looking for potential flaws in character, look for things like the inability for a person to take responsibility for their own actions, or someone who doesn't make good on their promises. You could even consider someone who constantly misses deadlines as having serious character flaws. All of these things, if allowed to enter an organization, will weaken it and eventually render that person ineffective. One of the telltale signs that I look for when it comes to character is how the person treats other people. What are their relationships like? Do they get along with and respect others on the team? If you aren't able to directly observe that behavior, then another thing you can do is ask those they lead how they're being treated by that person in order for you to get more insight into the character of that potential leader. Now, the next thing I look for is a positive attitude. The right attitude can change everything, and it's one of the most important qualities a potential leader can have. I've seen it time and time again that a person's problems aren't really the problem. It's their attitudes towards their circumstances that created the problem. The reason a positive attitude is so important to me is because with a strong positive attitude, a person can approach situations with a different perspective than most. They see opportunities where others see obstacles. Their attitudes allow them to achieve things that others without positive attitudes just can't. The last thing I want to say about a positive attitude is that it's contagious. When a potential leader displays a consistent positive attitude, those who follow them will do the same. It's just like when you set a book of matches on fire. You light one up, and the next thing you know, the entire book's on fire. Leadership is less about position and more about disposition. So a positive attitude can go a long way. This third one I really love. And as soon as I say it, you'll know why. It's one of my top qualities I look for. Ready? It's people skills. I guess it's kind of intuitive that a potential leader needs to have people skills since they'll be leading people. If they aren't leading people, then they aren't really leading, are they? I'll tell you what, a potential leader who doesn't have any people skills will soon find themselves without any followers. Successful leaders know that their behavior towards others determines their behaviors towards them. Excellent people skills means having the ability to connect with others, displaying a genuine concern for others, having empathy, and the ability to focus on ensuring interactions with others remain positive. Some of the things you'll see potential leaders doing that show off their people skills include things like the ability to listen well. They listen first and they listen to understand, not to respond. They focus on the other person and not themselves. They can do that by staying curious and asking questions. You'll also see that they tend to just radiate positivity. Our attitudes can have this ripple effect on those around us. So, radiating positivity encourages others to respond in the same way. It affects those who are close in proximity to us, and a person with good people skills understands their impact on others. All right, so I've got two more for you. The next one, this next quality is self-discipline. Great leaders always have self-discipline. And in today's world, it's difficult where patience is a virtue, literally, and everything has to be done yesterday. It can be hard to see that potential in others. These days, we're surrounded by so many modern day conveniences. We literally don't have to wait for anything. I can order something right now on Amazon Prime and I'll have it on my doorstep tomorrow morning. If I want to get something to eat real quick, I can get fast food. My movies, well, I can get those on demand. I don't have to wait for anything. And when I don't have to practice the art of patience, my self-discipline can suffer. So we have to look out for that. And that's why self-discipline has made my list. Those who lack self-discipline may not be so inclined to pay the price of leadership. And that's why self-discipline is necessary. They've got to be willing to pay that price. And if not, they are sure to pay the price for the lack of self-discipline, which is the pain of regret from taking the easy road and missing out on opportunities. You know, good leaders, they'll exercise self-discipline with their emotions and their time. So when it comes to exercising self-discipline with their emotions, they take responsibility for them. They understand that their reactions are theirs to own. They don't blame other people's actions on their reactions. When it comes to their time, good leaders are using their time effectively. They're using the time to grow and learn while others aren't. We're all given the same amount of time in the day to get things done, but our self-discipline is what determines how effectively the time we have is used. Now, the last characteristic I'll share with you today is this one: confidence. Maybe this is a little obvious, maybe not, but potential leaders have to have confidence. People don't tend to follow leaders who aren't confident. One of the things that can help with confidence is a positive attitude, and that's why it's one of my other characteristics that I look for. A potential leader has got to display confidence when they lead. Having confidence empowers others, and it instills confidence in the leader. The reason that so many people never fulfill their leadership potential is not a lack of intelligence or opportunity, but a lack of belief in themselves. Without confidence, there isn't much you can do. But with confidence, you can do anything. Confidence is not something we're either born with or not. It's the result of the thoughts we think and the actions we take. You know, what's interesting is that our confidence isn't based on our actual ability to succeed, but it's based on our belief in our ability to succeed. People like to work with leaders who are truly confident. There's a natural tendency to just trust people more when they appear confident. When a potential leader exhibits confidence, it makes it easier to trust the leader. And people want to work with leaders they trust. This is why confidence rounds out my top 5 qualities to look for in potential leaders. The takeaway from all of this is that good leaders seek out and find potential leaders. They mine for gold in people. They don't go looking for the dirt. And once a leader finds potential leaders, they spend time turning them into other great leaders. They invest in them. They equip them with the tools they need to grow and develop into a great leader. They empower them to grow and develop. When a leader has the ability to recognize the potential in another leader and also approaches search for potential leaders strategically, they ultimately find the gold lying underneath that mountain of dirt. So remember what I said. It takes one to know one. Okay, everyone, there you have it. That's the 3rd episode in my new series, How to Raise a Leader. You're invited to come back next week to the Lion's Den as I continue this new series. I'm going to be speaking about one of the most crucial tasks a leader can have to execute. If you want to know what that is, tune into the Weekly Roar next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks, everybody, for your support and for watching the Weekly Roar today. I appreciate you. And until we meet again, remember, everybody, be powerful, but stay poised just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.